And welcome everyone to Transformational Tuesdays. I'm Teresa Velardi, your host for this time of inspiration, education, motivation, and conversation that is focused on key ingredients necessary to create positive change in your life and our lives. Actually, all of us, we are always transforming. The one thing that you will know is constant in your life is change. Nothing remains the same. From moment to moment, everything changes. So therefore, we call this journey a transformational journey, and I am excited to have you all as part of Transformational Tuesdays. So for those of you who are new to Transformational Tuesdays, we do our show every week at noon Eastern Time, and I have a great guest today, Dina Proctor, who I will introduce in just a moment, but I want you to know that every single Transformational Tuesdays call from when I started back in, I believe it was 2010, is on transformationaltuesdays.com. Just go to the replay page. And we began doing this video platform in May of this year. So you can find some of the videos on the page. You can find the rest of the videos on the YouTube channel. There's a link on the page for that as well. So feel free to review and to enjoy any and all of the conversations that we've had on Transformational Tuesdays. We have had some exciting guests, and I'm really excited today for Dina because some of what she has taught, what she teaches to individuals has created great change in my life, and I'm excited to bring her to you. So once again, I invite you all to come each week at noon for Transformational Tuesdays. And let me just give you a little bit of information on our guest, Dina Proctor. Dina is a life and business coach, inspirational speaker, and best-selling author of Madly Chasing Peace. I love this title. How I Went from Hell to Happy in 9 minutes a day. After hitting an emotional rock bottom, she quite intentionally created a process called 3x3 meditation, 3 minutes, 3 times a day, that enabled her to transform every aspect of her life, from weight loss and banishing addictive cravings to reconstructing relationships. This simple and yet incredibly effective method has gained the support of Jack Canfield and Dr. Bruce Lipton, and is now helped thousands of others around the world improve their lives. And you can learn more about Dina and meet her actually at her website, www.madlychasingpeace.com. And welcome, Dina Proctor. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, Teresa, I just love everything you're putting together over here. And, you know, you're just a great human being with an amazing heart. I love everything that you're about and creating. So it's exciting to share this space with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's exciting. We met by accident, actually, at a conference. Something that Dina didn't attend on a regular basis, but was invited by someone, and we had an immediate connection. And so today I have the honor of bringing her here to Transformational Tuesdays, but not before we didn't sit at a diner for a couple of hours and have a great conversation.
We sure did. Just a couple weeks ago. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. So all of you know that she loves sharing this little technique. I sent this out on the registration page about 3x3 meditation, which has been the basis of her life transformation. And ironically enough, Dina, I got an email from you this morning that's indicated that this week is a huge anniversary for you. So with that being said, tell us the story behind the 3x3 meditations and what they are. I'm excited that we're on an anniversary week for you.
I know, it's crazy. Actually, I said that, I just felt emotion. But yeah, it was September of 2008. And that was when I hit my rock bottom points in my life. I was 32. And I felt like I had tried everything to fix this black hole that I felt inside of myself, like this emotional black hole. Even when I was a teenager and younger as a child, I just always had this inner restlessness. Nothing was ever good enough. Nothing ever made me feel, like normally kids have a great sense of well-being and playing and this lightheartedness. And I always felt like heavy and burdened and guilty and like that, and I was diagnosed with clinical depression in my early 20s. And from that point until age 30, so it was more than a decade that I was actually clinically depressed. And I had tried all kinds of different antidepressant medication. For a while, I was on anti-anxiety medication because I would just have this uncontrollable, I couldn't sleep. I felt like I was idling high. Like when an engine is idling, you're just idling too high. You just have too much frenetic energy going on with you, like a wiry type of feeling. And antidepressants just didn't work for me. They either made me feel nauseous and sick, or they made me sleep all the time. Like nothing helped me find that balance on the inside. Anti-anxiety is kind of the same thing, or else they just didn't have any effect at all. So I'm not saying that medication is ineffective. I'm just saying that it just didn't hit where I needed to hit on the inside. And later in my 20s, and throughout my 20s, I did a lot of different things to try and fix this inner black hole inside. I would move to different cities, and I just thought, okay, if I lived where there's more sunshine, maybe I'll be happy. Or if I what I really need to do is get married. That's what's going to do it. That's what's going to make me happy. And so I joined online dating, and I met just dozens of people in person, and it wasn't the right answer. You can't look on the outside and look to fix something that's on the inside, although that was my mentality. I kept upgrading my boyfriends, changing jobs, moving cities, and expecting that as I was making these outer changes, that something would shift on the inside. But I kept moving and taking myself with me. Like, have you ever had the experience where you're dating some guy and it's just not going well and you kind of get rid of him? A couple months later, you start dating another guy in a different city and you're like, how are you like exactly like him? Because it almost seems like it's the same guy, but in a different body, because that's who I was. And that's what I tended to attract. So I kept attracting, I was moving, but taking myself with me wherever I was going. And I even left work for a while on a part-time basis to do depression work and be in depression groups and try and fix this thing inside of myself with, having health insurance that paid for that. But nothing was hitting the mark. And I just felt like my inner desperation was getting more and more. And throughout my 20s, I remember that when I would go to bed at night, I would say to myself, if this is it, like if this is life, if this is how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life, I'm really okay not waking up in the morning. So I wasn't actively planning my suicide at that time, but I did feel like I tried everything, nothing's working, and this just sucks. Like, if this is it, like I don't want to do this for 60 or 70 more years, And as my 20s progressed, I kept changing living situations, and I ended up living with great human beings, and absolutely, they're not wild child people at all, but they like to drink and they like to party. And I hadn't lived in a situation like that. I'd never really been one to drink and party it up or anything. But because of the place I was inside emotionally, the people that I was living with liked to have a beer after work. I got into the habit of having a beer after work. And then they would have one, I would have two or three, because I just started realizing that drinking would give me this kind of numbing, buzzy, fuzzy feeling, and it helped ease that feeling of depression for me. And within a few weeks of living there, I began to be a nightly drinker. Like, I was drinking every single night of the week. And then within just a couple of months, I became an around-the-clock drinker, because I ended up in a habit where I would drink so much at night that I couldn't get out of bed in the morning because, the hangover, and half the time I was still drunk from the night before. And the only thing that made me feel better at that time was to drink more in the morning. And it got to the point where I wasn't drinking to feel good. For the first several months, I was drinking to feel good because it helped me feel better. But after that, it was really a full-blown addiction. Mm. And I was drinking just to function, because when I would go through with the withdrawal of it, it would be horrible. If you've detoxed from anything, a lot of people have like a sugar addiction or a caffeine addiction. It's like, I just need coffee and then I'll feel better, or whatever. Like, for me, that was alcohol. And so I was drinking all day long. I would drink several shots of vodka and orange juice before I went to work in the morning. I would drink on my lunch break. Sometimes I drank at work, coffee cup, nobody could tell what was in it. And then I would come home and drink in the nighttime. And as that drinking progressed, and I started becoming a person that I couldn't recognize. I remember a period of 6 months where I couldn't look my own eyes in the mirror. I was just ashamed and disgusted with who I was becoming, because with all that alcohol, my my moral character was kind of degrading. I was waking up next to a lot of guys I couldn't even remember their name. I would be on, in cars with people that I never even met. And it was scary, and it was dangerous, and it was unhealthy, and I was completely out of control. And one thing led to another, and I finally hit a point where I had just done one too many things to shame and degrade myself. And I decided to actually plan a date to take my own life because I couldn't see my life without drinking. You know, this was probably about 3 years in, like 3 years of constant alcohol in my bloodstream. And I couldn't see my life without alcohol. I was in denial that I actually had addiction to begin with. So it was just such a horrible, messy place to be. And so I finally, kind of by accident, went, you know, like really unintentionally, went to an addiction recovery center. It's kind of a longer story, but I'm chopping it for the purposes of our interview. But anyway, ended up in an addiction recovery program. And I remember sitting there, Teresa, and watching the people in that room. You know, I didn't tell anybody my name. I didn't want anybody talking to me. But I really went there to try and feel better about my own drinking. I thought if I can go there and see what real drunks are like, that'll make me feel better about myself. Like that made sense to me at the time. And I would hear people telling their stories. And I remember one guy who full blown admitted he was an alcoholic. And he was like, I've never driven drunk. And I was like, I have to drive drunk just to get to work. Like, what are you talking about? You never drove drunk. And then, so it kind of started clicking like, you know, do I belong here? Do I not belong here? Anyway, so I spent about 12 weeks going to the addiction recovery program meetings every day, sometimes several times a day. I did not quit drinking because I was not ready to, but the people in the program didn't give me a hard time about that. They just said, keep coming back, you know, just keep coming back. And about 12 weeks into it, and these 12 weeks were right when I had planned that date to take my life. You know, I had a date that I had set to take my own life. And the only reason I didn't is because I'd gone to a handful of those addiction recovery meetings and I thought, there's something here for me. I don't know what it is, but I'm not ready to push my game over button yet. So I said to myself, you know, I can always just kill myself tomorrow. I don't have to do it today. I can just do it tomorrow. That's, you know, and that gave me comfort of like, okay, I can get out of here anytime I want, but I'm not ready right now. And so for 12 weeks, I said that to myself every day and night. I can always just kill myself tomorrow. I can always just kill myself tomorrow. Yeah. And about the 12-week point, so we're getting into like December, around early December, I saw a woman speak at one of those addiction recovery meetings. And the way that she was, I was not a person comfortable speaking to groups or, you know, being interviewed. You know, this would not be something I was always the wolf. I didn't want anybody's attention. I wanted to be the person behind the person, not the person, right? And she was just sitting up in this room full of like 80 people. And she had, her cute little haircut and her cute little skinny jeans. And she just had herself together. And she was so comfortable speaking to this group that she was actually had her legs crossed and she was like just swinging one of her legs. She was just so at ease in her own skin. And the way she described her story, you know, she had gone through heroin addiction and all of this stuff. And it sounded kind of like, I mean, you can't compare, but to me, it was like, she's worse than me. She's worse than me. And she's amazing right now. Like, how is that possible? So I was so inspired. So I asked her to help me and to teach me this and everything. So when she and I first met and got together, she told me the first rule is you have to quit drinking. Like, you have to. There's no way. You just can't keep doing this on and off thing. So I committed to doing that. And then the second thing is she said, you're not even ready to start on step 1 of this program yet. You need to learn to meditate. Because I was such a crazy person at the time. She said, you need to learn to meditate. And I remember looking at her, really? Meditation? Are you kidding? Like, sitting still is going to do something for me? Like, what are you even talking about? Because I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in anything. I believed that when we die, we just become the dirt and that's it. You know, like, I didn't believe in any of this stuff and I hadn't experienced it. And so, you know, and I balked at her suggestion. I was like, listen, I think it should be more action-oriented. Like, shouldn't I be writing letters and not mailing them or beating on pillows with baseball bats or something? She didn't blink. She just looked at me and was like, she just said, your way doesn't seem to be working. Why don't you try mine? And I was like, that's a really good point. You know, and she didn't even blink. And I liked that, you know, like, I didn't rattle her. And there's something I liked that about her. So anyway, her specific instruction to me was to sit still every morning and focus on my breath. You know, I was really, you know, so I didn't think it would do much of anything, but I also hadn't tried it. So I said, well, if she ended up like that because of this 20-minute thing, I'll do it. So the first few mornings, because this is when I just quit drinking, right? So I'm going through detox. I'm shaking. I'm sweating. I'm craving. The negative suicidal thoughts are back. And so I would sit still. Her specific instruction, sit still, focus on your breath for 20 minutes, in the morning. So that very first morning, I sat down before work early in the morning and I tried to shut my eyes and focus on my breathing. I put my timer on and my body just started shaking because of the detox and the withdrawal. The sweating was happening. It was just unbearable and intolerable for me to sit still. I just couldn't. At the 3-minute mark, like I just lost my composure and I just got up and I had to move around the room and go get out, you know? And a little bit while later in the day, it kind of nagged at me like, Dina, the only thing she told you to do was sit for 20 minutes. You can't even do that. So I'd say, okay, I did 3, maybe I could do 17, right? So I put my timer on for 17 and I sat down again, the shaking happened again, the sweating, and I maxed out at the 3-minute mark. And so what ended up happening was I could do 3 minutes at a time. And I would do this, 6-7 times a day in order to make her 20-minute quota. And I thought she'd be mad when I told her that, hey, listen, I just can't do it. But she was great. She goes, whatever you can do, just be consistent. And so that's how this whole idea of 3x3 meditation, which kind of boiled down to 3 minutes, 3 times a day, was born. Because after about 8 weeks of this 3-minute here, 3-minute there thing, I had an experience in what I can only call a state of higher consciousness. I came out of one of my meditations. It was in the afternoon. I was in my apartment in Santa Monica. And I remember looking around and I had an awareness of it, not a mind chatter awareness, but just like a sensation in my body. And I recognized like I didn't have any mind chatter, like the voice, the voice. Like, how long is this interview going to last? I have to go pee. I have to go pick up my kids. What are we going to do after this? I have to go get my dog. Like the voice that's always going, it was just gone. It was gone. I couldn't believe it. And like my conscious awareness was hovering above, but tethered to my body. It was like I had this big me kind of like hovering above myself, watching little me, like my physical self. And so this state of being, it was also like, I felt like there had been, I don't know, saran wrap or like a rubber coating over myself and my senses that was removed. And so when I was brushing my teeth, it was like insanely pleasurable. And I could actually feel, we wear clothes all day long. We don't really feel the fabric against our skin, but I was so present. I could feel that fabric against my skin. It was like so amazing. And every person that I saw, like my whole awareness was just focused completely on them. And all I could see was their soul essence. It was an amazing state of being to be in. And that lasted for about 3 days. So I was going to work, I was going to addiction meetings and everything. Like I was in this kind of hovering above myself, present in the moment, no such thing as time awareness for 3 days. And I only came out of it because the voice started going, I wonder how long this is going to last, and it sort of piped up again. And then like I fell right out of it. But I learned 2 things during those 3 days. And that was really what solidified the power of these little 3-minute meditations. One thing was that there's no such thing as time. It seems like there is. I didn't used to have gray hair and I have gray hair and, like my nephews used to be babies and now they're older. Like it seems like there's such thing as time. There really isn't. Like when we look back, our mind understands it linearly, but that's not exactly how it happens. It's kind of like the way when you go outside and you see the sun rise in the east and you watch it move across the sky all day long and set in the west, all your 5 senses actually support the fact that the sun is the one moving, even though that's not the real truth. And that's how I feel about time. You know what I mean? Like that was what was really evident to me. And the other thing that was extremely clear, like almost laughably so, was that anything I want to create for myself in my physical world, whether it's a different condition in my body, whether it's something different in my relationships, whether it's a money or financial situation or a career or a dream to follow, absolutely everything is a mirror reflection of what goes on the inside, period. There is nothing that is drawn to us or can be created in our outer world without it first being created in the inner world. And that's it's kind of weird for some people to kind of understand and swallow that. But when you really realize that and get curious about it, you realize you're really a lot more empowered in your life than you might think. Because I always felt like a victim of my circumstances. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I don't have a boyfriend. Oh, I don't, I always felt like I was at the mercy of my circumstances. And it's so not true, because as I started shifting on the inside, like we were just talking about Jack Canfield, right, Teresa? Like I was in this place where I didn't know that I was going to write a book. And actually when Jack told me I should write a book, I thought to myself, I'm not a writer. And he told me I should be a coach. And I was like, coaching is not a real profession. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to leave my, so it it wasn't something that I even wanted, but because of who I was becoming on the inside, circumstances and people that could draw that out of me, I was drawing them around me, you know? So it wasn't anything that I even intended for. But anyway, so I get so passionate, so I'm talking kind of a lot, but that's the story behind how and why I created it. And then, so today I do videos, audios, writing, so that I can help people learn, like the brain science and understanding the what is actually going on in our higher sense of selves and physically in our brains, the neural pathways being repatterned when we take these short bursts of exclusive focus, those meditation breaks throughout the day. It literally repatterns the brain, and then the outer results follow from there.
Oh my word, I'm just floored. You know what? I mean, if you agree with this statement, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands, because I just need to give you some validation here. Not that you need it, but I would never, knowing who you are today, I would never, ever, ever think that was your past.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So we are not our pasts. We are not what we did. And I just love what you said. You said there's no such thing as time. These three things that you got from that 3-day experience that you became aware of. There's no such thing as time. Anything I want to create in my physical world is a mirror reflection of what goes on the inside. And then I thought you said there was a third one. What was the third one?
No, I think those were the only big ones. Yeah.
Those are the big ones. Yeah. So, I mean, for those of you who don't believe you can manifest a life different from what you're living, I hope to God you heard every word that Dina just said, because she's a walking miracle. So, not everybody has the same kind of thing going on in their life that you did, Dina. Not everybody does. Some people have other things. Some people shop, some people eat, some people gamble, some people are obsessed with other people. Some people just have anything to do. From what I know of myself, and I know of you now in great depth, and I never really heard your entire story told in such a concise way that moved me to actually tears. For people who have these things that cause themselves to get out of who they are and jump ship, so to speak, can they also use these like 3-minute meditations? Can this be used for basically anything?
It's a great question. And let me explain to you why it's so effective, because I think that helps people understand, but I can't think of something that it wouldn't work for, really. I can't think of anything it wouldn't work for. And I've seen it work for body, relationships. Like I had a client that was told she needed to have a surgery, and I gave her a visualization to use because it was like this searing pain she was feeling. She had to put this numbing serum on it. And the numbing serum didn't have a healing property, but I told her, when you put that on, imagine that it is balancing and healing those cells that it's touching. And 4 weeks later, she didn't need to have the surgery. I've had one that was allergic to penicillin. She did a visualization that only the powerful stuff was extracted. The allergen just passed right through her body. She wasn't allergic to it anymore.
Wow.
Like we can change our body. Weight loss, yeah, for sure. So, and relationships and money, I mean, I could tell you stories, but so
tell us a couple. Give us a couple of stories.
Okay, yeah. So there was one woman that I coached who she was in kind of a middle management position at her job, and she was almost like a logjam because she was the communication between higher management and then also the ones underneath. And she was so stressed out that when somebody would come and talk to her, she would just kind of like explode because she had so much to do, and everybody just kept coming at her because the higher ups and the lower downs needed her as their point, right? And so we did a specific visualization, and she actually did, and I'm going to give you this explanation too about the power cord. I use this analogy of a power cord. She would imagine as she was sitting in her office, and this may not resonate with some people, but it really worked for her, that a power cord was coming out of the back of her body, just out of her back and plugging into the wall. She would just imagine that it was just, you know, when you have those hair dryers, you push the button and the cord goes up. And so she was just imagining that she was releasing the cord and it was plugging in. And as she did that, she just felt calm, relaxed, right? And she ended up changing because of her demeanor and her work with this meditations. She ended up changing the entire dynamic of communication within this department in her company, right? So that was really great. And then I've helped 2 clients of mine. I can't say I helped because I don't really take the credit for it, but they manifested their dream homes. Like I had one woman who said, my husband doesn't believe in any of this, and I think he's going to mess it up when we try to get our dream house. We're moving across the country and everything. And I said, it only matters what you think. It only matters what you think. So gave her very specific, you know, kind of visualizations to use. And she had it was like right at the end of the summertime, the week before school. And they had 1 week in order to be able to sell one house and get the other one, and financially for it to work out and everything. And it could not have gone more perfectly. And it was such a great example of her getting the energy right, because when your energy is right on the inside, there's no way that you can have, you know, like I tell people, it can't snow when it's 80 degrees out. You know, we talk about the word vibration, right? Yeah. The vibration inside of ourselves. And I think of that as our inner temperature. And this temperature analogy, I didn't make this up, but I don't know who did. I'd love to credit them. But anyway, I like to think of it as our inner temperature. So when it's 32 degrees and below, it has the possibility of snow and sleet and hail and freezing rain and all of this stuff. And we're kind of like, we need the snowblower, we need the shovels, we need the mittens, we need the gloves. But you know what? You sometimes don't need all of that stuff. You don't need to battle the snow if you know how to raise the temperature, and the snow will melt. This is what happens when people carry a body condition or can't get pregnant or, you know, can't manifest money. And they just release their resistance and trying so hard to make this thing happen. When that inner temperature raises, that absence of health it's not a match. It cannot be there because it cannot snow when it's 80 degrees out. You know, you can't have unhealthiness and disease in the body when your inner life is at the max that it could possibly be. It just can't be. It just can't be. And so what I was going to say about the power cord is, like, I think of our power cord, like we were born with a power cord and we need to plug into something to get a sense of well-being, a sense of empowerment, right? And where I really think we were designed to get plugged into was an inner source of power, peace, and wisdom. That's what I call it. My inner source of power, peace, and wisdom. That's what my power cord was designed to plug into. But if I don't know that, and if I'm not in touch with that, I'm plugging into anything that's walking by. I'm plugging into that cute guy, and I'm plugging into that food, and I'm plugging into that money and that whatever. I'm plugging into things outside of myself. That's why we say, oh, does this look good on me, or whatever? Or, oh, can you give me your opinion about what I'm doing here? We're seeking validation, and we're seeking empowerment, and we're seeking to know that we are good enough from something outside of ourselves. But that is kind of like a fake answer. Like, have you ever had the experience? I used to have huge food addictions, right? Because when I quit drinking, I started eating. And so let
me see how I can relate to that.
Oh my gosh. It was just, I mean, you know, like it had oatmeal in the package, oatmeal cookies. Okay. That's breakfast, you know, like it had oatmeal in the name. So anyway, but what I realized was, because I was plugging into food as a self-soother after I promised to give up alcohol. That's what would make me feel better. I was plugging into that as my self-soother, right? And I would have experiences where I probably ate 5,000 calories in one sitting and I was hungry. How is that possible? That's like 2 or 3 days worth of food. Like, how is that possible that you're still hungry? Because you're not giving nourishment, right? To the question. And so when I started to realize that, it's like, we're designed to plug into one inner source of power, peace, and wisdom. And if we're trying to get it from something outside of ourselves, it will never be as satiating. You know, if we plug into a certain guy, like I was plugged into boyfriends for a while, he could never do enough for me. He couldn't. He would do all that he could. And I'd be like, I'm still sort of empty. Like, can we do this? Can you just not go to work today? Can we do, you know, it was like, I was a leech. I was just sucking all the energy out of him, you know, and like too much food, too much alcohol. And it just never worked to hit what I needed it to hit, because that wasn't what my power cord was designed to be plugged into. If we don't know that, that's what we see in the exterior world, and that's what we plug into, and that's what makes sense. But when I discovered, like really by accident, like I didn't intend for this 3x3 to be born through. And do you think I would ever be on Skype telling people, guess what? I used to be a drunk and a thief and a liar. Like, I don't want anybody knowing that. You know what I mean? But I have so much, it's like a level of self-forgiveness. It's not even forgiveness. It's like self-love and compassion of how I struggled and who I used to be. And it's okay. You know, it's okay. I've made amends for stealing money from people. I've made amends for hurting guys. I've made amends. You know, it's like I've done what I can to heal that part inside of me that was just such a mess, you know? And now I'm at this point where the inner vibration, and that doesn't mean it doesn't go up and down. Like I've got bad, everybody has bad days, good days, whatever. But my new normal, my new temperature is not below 32 degrees. It's just not. I haven't had, I mean, like not even a lick or a hint of depression or wanting to, you know, just binge out on booze or, you know, like it's just not there. It's just gone. And I didn't battle it, and I didn't fight it, and I didn't make it wrong. I took my focus away from it, put my focus on the inside. And when that increased, the snow just melted. It's just not there.
Wow.
Right? So yes, there's nothing that I can't think of anything that we couldn't use it for. And I'm not saying it's the be all end all solution. It's one of many amazing solutions. It only exists because I couldn't follow instructions. And so if somebody tries to 3x3 and they are getting drawn somewhere else from their inner guidance, follow that. Our inner guidance will always guide us better than me or any other human being possibly could. It is all about accessing that voice of inner wisdom.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up. I have a bunch of your 3x3s, and if you want to right now, we can just play one of the 3x3s, the one called Inner Guidance, to give people a 3-minute experience. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so how many of you want to be 3x3 right now? I see a few hands up. So, and we are at the half-hour mark. So this would be a good way for us to transition into some questions. So I have this up here, and I'm just going to push the start button. So just, if you can, just sit comfortably in your chair and listen to Dina. Just a moment.
Welcome to 3x3 meditation for inner guidance. In this moment, I invite you to sit comfortably. Just completely let your body and your mind fully relax in this moment. As you feel the muscles in your body release, and the thoughts in your mind just completely melt away, bring your attention and your focus to the area of your heart right now. Your heart is the seat of your innermost wisdom and guidance, your highest source of self. And as you feel yourself relax and become in tune with this wisdom inside of yourself, invite the voice of this wisdom to make itself known to become clear, to be louder than any voice in your mind. Feel yourself commit to making this inner voice, this intuitive voice, the one that you most want to listen to, guidance in your everyday life. There's nothing too small, and there's nothing too big for this voice of inner wisdom to guide you. In this moment, feel free to ask a question or bring forth a dilemma or circumstance you'd like to change. You just sit with it in your awareness, aware of it, but not overwhelmed by it. Just gently aware of this question you'd like to ask your inner guidance. Gently aware. Let yourself be curious. where is the voice of inner wisdom guiding you? What feels like the best next step for you right now? Your wisdom may communicate through words, or visions, or feelings. Let your inner wisdom communicate in its own special way right now. And as you feel that connection and that answer coming forward, take a moment to express gratitude for being able to have this inner resource of wisdom available to you at all times. And just remember, you can tap in and spend more time with this voice of wisdom anytime you like.
How many of you liked that experience of just taking those 3 minutes to go within? All I can say is she's got a whole bunch of these. But that one right there, I mean, that's a great place to start. So, Dina, if before we open up for questions, if somebody wants to have their own copy of that, excuse me, how can they get it?
You know, you can, I don't know if you have a way to share that with people, but you can share the MP3. It's hard with the sound quality. It's actually a good, you know, the music is pretty and stuff when you have your headphones in and you listen to it. So if you have a way of sharing that, you can. There's also, for the month of September, there's 3 of them on my website. I'm remembering 2 right now that are free if you use a coupon code PEACE. And they're only 99 cents anyways. But there's one called Trusting the Universe and one called Warm Honey. Warm Honey is what I used for my like kind of healing and stuff. And there's one called Trusting the Universe on my website. And I can't remember the third one. It was in that email that I sent this morning, but I'm blanking on it right now. Yeah, okay. And then they can use Peace when they check out and get those. And if you want to host the Inner Guidance one somewhere, Teresa, we can do that too.
I can, for those of you who are on the Transformational Tuesdays list, I will absolutely put that in the thank you that goes out every week when we have a call with Dina's contact information and where you can, you know, a link to the recording, and I will absolutely put the you know, the audio in there as well, so people can go ahead and get that. So, Dina, are you okay to open this up for some questions?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so anyone who has a question for Dina, if you are on the phone, you can press, and I have Philomena in the chat box here. By the way, there is a chat box. If you scroll over your bottom part of your screen, the word chat will come up, and you can just go ahead and type in any question. If you don't want to actually speak, you can type your question in there. Philomena says thank you for the MP3, and she's been typing to me the whole time you've been speaking, and she's highly relating to this. So, Philomena, I'm sure that you have something to say. So I'm gonna just unmute yourself there and ask your question of Dina, because I know you're busting. Actually, I'll unmute you. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can't unmute myself once you've done it, but that's great. Thank you so much for bringing Dina on. I feel very kindred spirit with her, and today I needed it because I couldn't even bring myself out of this energy that surrounded me this morning. Even though I have my own trigger meditations, you know, as I said on my little chat, Momi Moma, which is helping me move out of old spaces, move into new places, move on and move ahead. I couldn't even do it for myself. So today, Dina did it for me. I really appreciate that 3x3. I do it with my chakra, over my chakra with 3 breaths, crossing my hands. It's that heart meditation. And it's just sometimes this just doesn't work. And I have to stop. How do you stop yourself from thinking, oh, this isn't working? when you know it really works?
Well, it's funny because most people think that we need to try and stop our thoughts, that we are failing at meditation if all the thoughts are there. The thing is to change your relationships to your thoughts. What if you just allowed that thought to be there and you felt warmth in your heart even as that thought is there? You know, it's like changing our relationship to it. It would be the same way, like, say that you loved gardening, right? You loved gardening, but you were terrified of spiders. And gardening was your passion and your love, and you don't go out there gardening because you're terrified if a spider crawls across you, right? So I would say, why don't you imagine a spider in the corner of your mind and practice a relaxation response even though the spider is there? Even though the spider is there, can I feel relaxed even though the spider is there? It's the same thing with our thoughts. You know, yeah, you could tap the EFT. Every modality is valid, you know, so it's whatever works for you. But that has been what has worked for me is because when I try to stop my thoughts or make myself wrong for having thoughts, it doesn't go anywhere. And it just makes me mad and frustrated. And then I go eat a cake. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't work. So the way that I do it is change the relationship to it. What if it's okay that that thought is just there? What if you just let that thought spin around and do whatever it wants to do, and you can feel peace even as it's doing that? Because I'll tell you this, that the less resistance you have towards it, it can't be there any longer. You know what I mean? So the thoughts are not a problem. They're a symptom. And so when you get more centered on the inside and just let that fall away, let that thought it just loses importance, you know? In the beginning, it might be, oh, I feel that reaction, ooh. And then you just recognize, this is the time that's bing, 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 that reaction feeling, that's my cue. I relax here. I allow this to be.
That's a great reminder, and it reminded me of a temper tantrum that a child would have. And those are your childish thoughts that aren't elevated to a maturity level, so you just say, okay, I'm going to wait till that thought passes. And it's funny you brought up the spider, because today I was picking raspberries for breakfast outside, and there was a huge spider on my flag, my garden flag. It's like, it didn't bother me. Okay, just wipe it away. And I continued to pick the raspberries for my breakfast this morning. Right in tune. Thank you for aligning that.
Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad that helped. Good.
Awesome. Thank you, Philomena.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just to give you the and now these are on madlychasingpeace.com, Dina, the free.
Yeah, if you hit store on there,
okay.
Yeah.
Go to the store, and the free ones with the coupon code PEACE, PEACE, are Trusting the Universe, Deep Relaxation, and Warm Honey.
Yes, Deep Relaxation is the one I forgot. Yeah, and Warm Honey.
And we'll put the inner guidance one in the email, so that'll have a link for that. So, yeah. So this how can someone start this meditation? I think maybe we might have already started it for some people with just that one experience of going through one of the meditations. What's the best way to start? Just to say, I'm going to do this and follow through?
Well, yes, but I can give you some specific stuff because a lot of people might want to, need to feel practical about it. I also have free videos on my website. There's a link called Vlog. It's like video blog, like vlog. And there's a bunch of videos that are free. And the first 2 on that page are detailed instructions about starting a 3x3 practice. So just a resource, but I'll tell you really quick right now. I always tell people, take it 7 days at a time, because when you come at it with a New Year's resolution, like have you ever done the New Year's resolution thing, like December 31st, you have a list of like 48 that I'm never going to eat bread again. I'm never going to curse again. I'm going to join the gym this year. Like January 15th rolls around and you're like, oh yeah, whoops. It's too much. We put too much and we can't shift it all at once. But if we say for 7 days, I'm going to go to the gym. For 7 days, I'm going to try meditation. For 7 days, I'm going to practice a calm response in regard to my thoughts or a spider or whatever. For 7 days, I want to practice. That seems like, okay, I could do it for 7 days. And so I encourage people, just take it 7 days at a time. And if it doesn't flow with you or you're guided elsewhere after 7 days, it's all for it. Definitely switch it, change it, but give it 7 days to just see. And then a lot of people, the biggest thing is time. I don't have the time. And the second thing is I can't quiet my mind. I can't sit still. And so with the time, like I think of it this way, because some people are like, I already have 800 things on my to-do list. You want me to put 801? And it's not that. it's about, like, there's an old Zen saying that says, if you have time to meditate for 20 minutes. If you don't have time to meditate for an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Because that feeling of busy is actually a symptom that you're scattery on the inside and you really need to meditate. So look at it instead of something that you need to do as something you feel curious about. You know, like I always think, if I want to buy something and the money just isn't in the bank account for it, I tell myself, if it is in my highest good, the money will come. Like, I just know that. If it's in my highest good, the money will come. So it's like, if meditation is the right thing for me, the time will be shown to me. I just know it'll be shown to me, you know? So opening it up and relaxing about it like that, right? And then I also, for some people that just can't sit still and focus on their breathing and they start having a panic attack as soon as they're left alone with their own thoughts, I say to use what I call a bridge to meditation. So this is a bridge. So for example, start with the number 893 and count backwards by sevens, right? Just for 3 minutes. And if you get caught in a thought, you know, you're kind of like 893, 896, 890, you know what I'm saying? Like because it takes you a second to get the math, right? It's not about getting the math right, because I've done that a lot and I never get the same answer. But it's about being able to distract yourself with something that puts you on a neutral focus, because that's where our power is as human beings, is our ability to focus. Like when I interviewed Bruce Lipton in my book, because my book says Hell to Happy in 9 minutes a day, sounds a little bit like 4-minute abs, you know, hey, you know, yeah, that's it. That's the book. So when you say 9 minutes a day, it's kind of like, has that, really, is that possible? Is this too good to be true? And so he was explaining to me, he goes, when I told him the results that I had and what I was doing in these short bursts of meditation, he goes, he actually laughed and he goes, that's probably one of the most effective things you can do, because you are constantly and consistently interrupting your subconscious programming. You know, like when you think about a walk in the woods, when you go on a hike, there's always a dirt path and then all these, like, you know, 5 inches of grass around you, 5 feet of grass around you, right? Like it's clear which the path is. You see the dirt walkway. Well, if you decide, I want to carve a different path, and you trample down the grass and you do that, you come back the next day, that grass is probably going to be right back up where it was, and you're not going to be able to tell where you were. But if you walk it again and again and again, it will over time become another well-worn path. And that's the point here, is that you are consistently reinforcing a new neuropathic pattern in your brain. And it's bigger than just your brain. It's your heart, it's your bigger energy of self. But it is reflected in the patterning of the brain, and then, but in turn, reflected in physical behavior, inspiration, and reflected in our outer circumstances. Wow. So timers, reminders in your phone, remind yourself as memory joggers 3 times a day, put on a timer when you meditate, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever you think. I feel like the frequency is more important than the duration.
That's really important. The frequency is more important than the duration. So, you know, this, and I will say that in this world of hustle and bustle, busy and getting to the next thing and so forth and so on, has people in this rush, hurry up, and I call it the hurry up and wait syndrome. Let's hurry up and get this done so I can wait for the next thing to do, which is really right around the corner. So let's hurry up and get that done so I can wait. And we're constantly, we are madly chasing peace.
I know.
So I think that this is huge. The frequency is so important, because our frequency, otherwise, if we don't allow space for us to slow down, is going to burn us out and kill us so fast that it's amazing that there are as many people on the planet as there are. And I think that this is one of the ways that we can bring together. If we all committed to start this, it would be one, it has like a ripple effect. It affects you, and it affects the next person, and it affects the next person, and it affects the next person, because you have been the center of change in your own life with your own higher power and your inner guidance. And that affects the relationships that you have. So if you have a question, raise your hand, press *9 on your phone. That will raise your hand. This is your opportunity to speak to Dina Proctor. So she's not going to be here much longer, so take advantage of it.
No such thing as time, Teresa. No.
There is no time. time. There is no time. There's no
I'm
such
just
thing as time. So, but if you have a question for Dina in this forum, this is your opportunity to ask the question. And if you don't have one, I have plenty. So, okay, Marilyn, I'm going to unlock your line here for you. Just bear with me 1 second while I find you on my little thing here. Okay, you are unmuted, my dear. Go ahead.
Dina, do you have meditations for weight loss, and what do you recommend for that?
Yes, I can totally help you with this. This is body, and helping people with body and weight loss and all that is actually one of my favorite things. I have different, actually in the free videos that I mentioned, there's one for cravings, like if you have trouble with cravings, and there are also some guided audios that I have, the 99 cents ones for a healthy body. There's one about unleashing your inner body blueprint. I teach a method of intuitive eating. I thought I made up intuitive eating because it was kind of like I discovered it from the inside, and then I realized other people have talked about intuitive eating. But the basic premise is changing our relationship to food and trying to get ourselves to train ourselves when we are looking to, when you watch the craving video, you'll know what I'm talking about interrupting that response, because it's a stimulus and a response. That's what it used to be with alcohol with me, was I would have a craving for alcohol. Everybody just had to get out of my way because I couldn't see anything until I got that alcohol. And I would look down and the half the bottle would be gone. I didn't even remember opening it, like that. And that happened to me with food. Like half the bag would be gone. I'm like, I don't even remember sitting down and opening it, because the stimulus and the response, there's just no room in between them. So if you can start to insert a little bit of room, and this has nothing to do with discipline. It is not about willpower. It is not about discipline. It is not about deprivation. Because like I said with the temperature analogy, you cannot have horrible food cravings and bad eating and unhealthy behaviors when your inner temperature is up. So you don't really have to fix or change or discipline this stuff, because it cannot be any longer when that inner transformation happens. It's a shift in consciousness that we're seeking. And when we are not shifting in that consciousness, that's when we get plugged into those things outside of ourselves. So when we notice that we're plugging into those things outside, and there's so many reasons that people may carry extra weight. It may be an emotional thing. It may be it may be a physical addiction to a certain food or sugar or whatever. It could be, could be relating on a million things. It could be a protection against abuse, or, but no matter what it is, I kind of let go of the need to know why. I think of it this way. Like if I come home from, work, you come home from work and you put on the light switch in the room, and it's, there's a lamp that's usually plugged into the outlet controlled by the switch, and you come in and the switch is on, but the light doesn't go on. You realize, oh, it's unplugged. Like you might look at that and be like, oh, who unplugged it? Did I get robbed? Was there a robber in here? Was it my nephew? Was he over here? Was my grandpa over here? Did the cleaning lady do it? Like, it doesn't matter why it's unplugged or who unplugged it. Just plug it in, And that's how I feel about this stuff. Sometimes it's valuable to know why things happened for us, but it is not valuable to know when we're at the same level on the inside as the problem, because that won't get us anywhere. I've talked to a lot of people who will tell me they're sick and stuck because their mom did this and their dad did this and everything else, and they're very knowledgeable about it, and yet they're still stuck. So that's obviously not the solution, right? It could be valuable. I'm not negating its value, but it is different to find solution than it is the solution is on a different vibrational level than the problem. Okay. So understanding, redefining, rehashing the problem often doesn't get us to where we want to be. But in terms of in terms of weight loss and release, I would say in the beginning, because it's such a heavy topic, is let go of thinking about all of that body stuff altogether, because sometimes we've been stuck in it for so long. Friends of mine tried to get pregnant for years. They spent tens of thousands of dollars, couldn't get pregnant, just in tears, devastated. Finally, they just said, you know what, we're going to go for 2 weeks to Panama and just forget about this whole thing because it's just too painful. They got pregnant in Panama, because they let go of all the resistance to it. Their vibration raised out of just relief. They stopped focusing and trying so hard intensely on it, and it flowed right into their experience. Then their bodies were able to create that miracle, that new life, And so that so many times we think we have to fix and discipline and willpower and all of that, deprive ourselves. But here's the thing, that can be effective, The dieting can absolutely be effective. I'm not denying that, but I don't feel like it's sustainable. It's kind of like using adrenaline, like using adrenaline for something. Like, yeah, we could use that in times of hardship or to get us going on something, but it's not sustainable. And that's why you'll see people who've had miracle weight losses, run marathons, and then 6 months later, they're back where they started. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it was a behavioral change, and it never changed the consciousness about it. It was pure willpower, focus, and adrenaline. And I have all respect for it, because that's amazing somebody could do that. But I understand why they go back to the old behavior patterns, because it wasn't rewired in their brain. They do not think about it differently. I was overhearing a guy talk the other day, and he said, I quit smoking 10 years ago, but I still crave a cigarette every day. And I was like, there's no freedom in that. Can you imagine if I was sitting around thinking about alcohol right now? Like, can you imagine? It's just not a thought. I used to walk into a room and I could tell you exactly what each vodka bottle had in it and everything. I knew exactly where all the alcohol was. And now it's like, I don't even notice it. It's like not even on my radar. That's freedom, right? So we don't want to be on willpower and discipline for our lives. But I will tell you that in my body stuff and being able to, because I lost 7 pounds in 10 days when I put my mind on that intuitive eating stuff. And I have videos that talk about that in my video course, actually, that it talks in depth about intuitive eating and weight loss and that sort of thing. But anyway, what I really noticed was that once my inside and my relationship to food and my thoughts about my body were changing, I didn't even have to think about the weight. I just woke up and I was like, I know I lost a pound since yesterday. I just know it. I didn't try for it. I just knew on the inside that it was just melting right off my body. So I always think of like anything that's going wrong in our bodies is just a symptom. It's not the problem that we need to solve, because when we get right on the inside, that cannot be in our experience. I don't know if this is this helping you?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. And Dina, I know you and I talked about this, and I don't know if the ladies know about this, but there was this movie Embrace that came out. It was yesterday. And we gathered a whole group of women here in northeastern Pennsylvania. And we went to this video premiere of this documentary that was made by a woman in Australia. And she had... there's got to be, I bring this up because there has to be a level of acceptance that we are who we are and we are not our bodies. And everything that you said is, fits so well with the conversation that movie was trying to bring to the surface for women to, it's not about, she said, any word that the first 3 letters are the word die doesn't belong in our vocabulary. Diet doesn't belong in our vocabulary. It's like, it's, and that, running the marathons or training for the bodybuilding competition that she did after she had 3 children, and then coming to a place where she wanted to have plastic surgery, and then she interviewed so many people, and it was really awesome to see how in the end it comes to accepting yourself for who you are from the inside out, and this is exactly what you teach. And you give pattern interrupts where we can interrupt the response through your meditations and your teachings that can help us, myself included, to accept who we are from the inside out, because all transformation happens from the inside out, not the outside in. Yes, we can do things externally. There's this huge conversation now. There's show videos and shows on television about this this weight loss surgery and things that people can do. But you know what? I have family members who have done this, and they're still the same people. They're still the same crazy people that they were before they had the surgery. I mean, if you can't change yourself from the inside out, yes, you look great. You look great. But let's not have a conversation about that, because it's the same sick conversation before you had the surgery or whatever, that meaning whatever, having a conversation about whatever. So everything that you're saying is like so key. And what I teach about authentic transformation is you have to find who you are authentically. And everything that you're teaching, Dina, helps us to do just that. Yes?
Yeah.
So one more question, and we are at 1:00, but I have to ask you this. How does emotion tie into all of this? Because as you can see, I've been emotional.
Oh yeah, emotion is huge. Emotion is actually, if you listen to Abraham Hicks, like Esther Hicks, they have an amazing way. I can feel when I was in those 3 days state of higher consciousness, that's where I feel the Abraham is spoken from. And so I love their teachings and what they speak. And they describe emotions. It's how I understood it, and they articulate it very well as kind of a GPS system. And most people here may have already heard about that, right? So when I'm feeling, every thought has an emotion, and every emotion is felt in the body. It really is. You know, when I'm thinking about my body, what is my primary emotion when I think about my body? If it's frustration or anger or self-hatred or I can't change this, why isn't this changing? That's, you know, like when you picture a number line and you got 0 in the middle and the negatives, -1 all the way to -100, +1 all the way to +100. When you think about your body or whatever the issue is, and you feel left of center, like from -1, which is a mild negative emotion, all the way to horrible shame and suicidal depression, when you're on that side of it, you feel constricted in your body. It feels tight. It feels constricted. It feels yucky. You feel that emotion in your body. And the same thing with the things right of center. If you think about your body and you're like, I'm so grateful. Like, I love how flexible my body is, and my body knows how to eat food. It takes what it needs and easily releases the rest. Like, I'm so in harmony with the cells in my body, and I'm so grateful for my higher wisdom inside. So if you're right of center when you're thinking about your body, that emotion feels relaxed and feels expanded and feels good. And so you can use those emotions to determine if a thought is serving you or not. And you don't even have to articulate what emotion you're feeling. You just need to check in with your body. Does this feel constricted and contracted? Or does this feel good and relaxed and expanded? Or just a feeling of relief? Does it feel like that? If it does, then the thought you are thinking in this moment serves you. It doesn't mean the thought you're going to have to think forevermore. But when I coach people, I try to help them use their emotions to work from where they are to get to where they want to be. So if somebody is $100,000 in debt, I don't tell them, imagine yourself on your private jet drinking a $5,000 bottle of champagne. You know, like you can't, your brain can't get that. You just reject that right away. You know, it's like planting roses. If you have weeds in your garden, you haven't told the soils so that it can accept what you're planting, the weeds are just going to choke out the roses. So you want to start with thought where you are and choose a thought that feels a little bit better. And then who are we talking to who's doing the EFT? That's what they teach in EFT. It's like, where am I now? This sucks. I've been stuck like this for 25 years. Nothing's ever going to change. I just want out of here. I hate this. Okay. That's maybe where you are. What feels a little bit better? Well, I know there are other people who have done this, and I know there are other people who have actually had it worse than me and done this. I could see that if somebody else could do it, I could see maybe it's possible for me. You see? So it's like you took where you were and you relaxed it a little bit. You feel a little bit more expanded. So you still might be left of center, but maybe you went from -50 to -40, like you moved up on the scale. Then you start from there. What feels just a little bit better from there? And you kind of bridge it. And so then you'll reach the point of neutral, and that's when the teeter-totter shifts. And that's when physical manifestation starts happening, in my experience. You know, when you start moving from that negative into the neutral and then shifting into the positive, that's where you start to notice, like, oh, I feel lighter in my body, or I'm sleeping better, or that's so funny, they had birthday cake and I just didn't even want any. How funny. You know, like you just start to notice that things about your thought patterns are shifting. But that's really because our emotions are really telling us how plugged in or unplugged we are from that inner source of power, peace, and wisdom. That's how I think of it. And if we feel yucky, we are unplugged from our inner source of power, peace, and wisdom. And our head wants to figure out the problem so we can, I feel yucky because I'm carrying extra weight. No, you feel yucky because you're unplugged from your inner source of power, peace, and wisdom. And extra weight is a symptom of that.
Oh, wow.
So it's not about fixing the weight. As you've seen with the people you described, they fixed the exterior, but that didn't fix the interior. Right. And that's what I did my whole life. Just get the right job. If I just get the right, I got to get my body right. And I would do that and be like, was something supposed to happen? Like I'm supposed to feel better. And we get mad at ourselves because we think we should feel better, and we feel guilty that we don't feel better. And it's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it's a rabbit hole. It's a hamster wheel, for God's sake.
It's a hamster wheel.
Yes, indeed. It's a hamster wheel. You're chasing your tail off, madly chasing peas.
Madly chasing your tail.
Yes, indeed. So for those of you who want a copy of this, we're going to have it on a resource page. It's going to be put up on the resource page. We'll put a link for you to get Dina's book in the thank you. And I encourage you to go to her website, Madly Chasing Peace, and look at some of the resources that she has available. Is there anything in particular that you have going on, maybe a group that you're forming or anything that's going on that we can invite our guests to, Dina?
You know, there's actually, I just launched a program with a cool technology platform. I have 2 technology platforms that I work closely with that are amazing. One is called My Quest. I think their website, this is really embarrassing, if you look up My Quest or My Quest World or something like that, I'll have a link soon and I'll put it on my own website for people, but it's about intuitive eating and it's related to weight loss and all of that. And you do these missions and you check off the missions and it congratulates you and you commit to meditating for 7 days, and the videos and the audio meditations, everything is built right in. It's like a no-brainer. You click this and you click here and it walks you right through. It's like a quest. They call it My Quest. And this other platform that I work closely with is called Mind Power Technology. And they have sort of like a slideshow platform. I think you've seen that one, haven't you, Teresa?
Yes, so, I looked at that.
Yeah, it's like a slideshow platform with audio. And the one I did on body, I think I actually did like I'm doing the audio rather than it being music. So it's like 300 subconscious like positive statements that fly by on the screen like really fast, so that you don't have time to reject them. They sneak into your subconscious in that way. So I have one on peace and productivity, one on relationship to food and intuitive eating, and one on cellular healing. So just those kind of 2 are things that I'm thinking of that are current and active and are just coming out, but they are not listed on my website right now yet.
Okay, so well, when you have them up on your website, will you let me know so we can share it with the Transformational?
You know what, I can send you, after we are done, I'll send you links to each to them so that you have it. So if you want to share. Yeah, and if it resonates, great. If not, you know, it's just, but I love creating with technology platforms like that because I think it's so great to be able to make something easy and doable for somebody to be able to access the work, you know?
Right. Yes. And and as I said before, in this fast-paced world, the easy and doable is really key. You know, I mean, and as women, we wear so many different hats. A lot of us are mothers. A lot of us are spouses. A lot of us have our own businesses, as you and I do, Dina. And we have a lot of other women here who are entrepreneurs as well, or who go to work every day. And you're making it easy for us to be able to get into the transformational process with all that you've been creating. So thank you for everything.
Good. I'm so glad. Oh, sure. It's like, it's so my joy. It's so my joy to share it. I love sharing it. If it helps people, like, I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are past our hour, and I so want to thank you for spending time with us and sharing all that you did. Everyone says thank you. I see people putting some things in the chat box here, thanking, and Philomena popped her face in again. She's saying thank you as well. So I'm so excited that you decided to spend this time with us, and I invite you to come back anytime that you want to.
Oh yeah, anytime. It's so fun.
And maybe we'll even do a special event and launch something that the group can take part in. Maybe we'll do something like that. Just a thought. So
let's do it. I'm up for it. I think that would be great.
We'll have that conversation, absolutely. And thank you to everyone who came to Transformational Tuesdays today. Thank you for each of you who is going to look at this replay, either on video or audio. We're working on getting our Transformational Tuesdays on iTunes and some other podcast platforms. So you're going to be able to find us in different ways. But at any event, you can always get the replays and the videos on transformationaltuesdays.com. Connect with Dina at madlychasingpeace.com. And if somebody wants to send you an email, Dina, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, well, there's a contact thing on my website, and my email is just dina@dinaproctor.com.
Okay, so you can connect with Dina there. And I encourage you to follow up and look at some of the things that she's bringing to the world, because they are truly transformational. And thank you once again, Dina. And invite you all to come back to Transformational Tuesdays next week. We have Sheila Sutherland, who is an author in a in a 365-day book, and she's going to be here to share her journey with us, which is a really transformational one as well. So I invite you to come back for that conversation, and to each and every conversation that's going to be after that, because I am truly committed to not only my transformation, but more than that, your transformation as individuals. And enjoy, as you travel through this week, what I call the transformational trails of life. See you the next time.